let me just load back my slides. So what I wanted to show you guys today, I kind of thought, like, do we open up a full project? But instead, I figured I want to talk to you guys about vocals. I've been writing and producing my new album over the past 6 months, so I've been spending an awful lot of time working with vocals. I've got the process pretty down. And I'm pretty well known for vocal tracks. So I figured, let's take a vocal, something brand new, and I'll show you guys the entire production process that I'll do from beginning to end, with absolutely no gaps, no kind of like jumping over a bit of the process, exactly how I do it. So, you know, if you produce vocals or have any interest in it, it will be pretty interesting. If you have no interest in vocals, I hope you enjoyed the stuff so far. And there'll be a Q&A at the end. Take a nap, I won't be offended. So, yeah, and like a few other points before we do it, you know, I really am a strong believer in writing your own vocals when you can. And, you know, how we tend to do it in electronic music, for like most people, is the DJ or the producer makes an instrumental. They send that instrumental to somebody that writes songs, be it a team of people or, you know, a sole songwriter, and that person writes a vocal over the top and they send it back. And we call those vocals top lines. Now, I personally hate the expression top lines because for me, the music and the vocal are one and the same. They should be, you know, two pieces that perfectly complement each other, that are inseparable. The vocal does not work without the music does not work without the vocal. When people look at music as top lines and instrumentals, it sort of like pulls the heart out of it. And, you know, whenever I've sent an instrumental off for somebody to write a top line, it always sucked. Because you have somebody who is in a completely different frame of mind to you were trying to put a vocal on the track. So, for instance, I've made instrumentals in a really dark time, feeling like super low, and I've made like a depressive sounding instrumental track. And I've sent it to a top line writer on the other side of the world who sends back and goes, oh, here is The Sun Is Shining. And I'm like, yeah, that's kind of like from a different emotional place. So I do think learning to write your own vocals is much better than getting other people to write them, because they can just be in a different space. Doing it the slow way, the way I'm going to show you guys how to produce vocals is slow. That's how I do it. It works extremely well, but it's really fucking slow and it's very, very detailed. So if you are somebody that works in a studio and you record like 5 songs a day and you have an hour to produce each one, that technique is not for you. You need to use as many shortcuts as possible to get those done quickly. If, however, you have a song and you want to get it sounding as good as fucking possible in terms of production, I think it'll work pretty well. Vocals are irrelevant if, it's going to sound very obvious, if the song is shit. I'm going to show you how to produce vocals really well, but if the song sucks, it doesn't matter. So try and start with a good song. And last little hack before we get into it, my favorite tool when producing vocals for monitoring, these. I have amazing monitors in my studio. I use my Yamaha NS10s for a lot of stuff. But we live in an amazing time where like 80% of music is listened to on these. So I plug these into my desk in the studio and I make sure whatever I'm writing, whether it's instrumental, vocal, or whatever, sounds great on a pair of Apple headphones. So these are some of the things we're going to cover, but I think we're just going to get into it. So let me load up Cubase and have a crack. So what we have here, this is a song which I've recorded the vocal of. I've not produced it yet. So we've got 3. This is just the verse. We're literally just going to do the verse because that is going to take up the time we have available. Let's have a listen to it as it currently is. Maybe we could just turn up the music a little bit as well, please.
The lights are getting low.
Totally dry vocal there.
Getting low, and I felt like this before. I'm not a stranger to love. I'm not a stranger to us. In this moment I feel like it's the first time, even if it's just a night. I'll be good, cause I know that this is enough. I'm not a stranger to love.
So that will be a future track of mine at some point, but we're going to go over how to get that sound. At the moment, it sounds pretty basic. Obviously, she's a good singer, but we're going to get it sounding fucking banging. So, as you can see, I've recorded 3 takes of this verse. Sometimes I'll do like 4 or 5 takes, but like I try and keep like any more than that, you start to go a bit nuts when you try and figure out which bit is good and which bit is not. So, you know, for me, once you get the vocalist warmed up, like 3 takes is pretty much a sweet spot. Labeling is very, very important. So I've got my verse, got my pre-chorus, got my chorus, I've got some stuff recorded for doubles, harmonies, ad-libs. Producing vocals gets very, very messy. Very, very quickly. So when you're recording, label as detailed as you can. And also it sounds obvious, but make sure you use lanes. These were all recorded back to back, but Cubase and whatever DAW you're using will do this, helpfully splits it up into 3 lanes. So we're now going to pick which takes we want to use for each line. So first thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to chop this up into kind of like the individual into each individual bit, and then we'll go and have a listen and see which ones are sounding good. And what I'm kind of looking for when I start comping is emotional tone. Tuning can mostly be fixed, and timing is a little harder than tuning, but it can be fixed. Emotional tone is much more difficult to, if you haven't got emotion in a take, there's no way to put it in. So it's really just finding like where the best emotion is. So keep the vocal totally dry for now. Let's have a listen.
All the lights are getting low.
So that's the first one. Let's have a listen to the next one.
All the lights are getting low.
I think I prefer the first.
All the lights are getting low.
Right, so for me, I'm into the first. You guys might prefer something different, but it's my track, so... Next line.
Getting low, and I felt like this before.
Yeah, not sure where that's.
Getting low, and I felt like this before.
That was better, I think. Let's hear the third.
Getting low, and I felt like this before.
Oh, no, I like the third. All right, so we're going to go for the third one from there. Next one.
Felt like this before. I'm not a stranger to love.
Yeah, that sounds great. Let's check there's not a better one.
And I felt like this before. I'm not a stranger to love.
Yeah, that was a bit weaker, a bit thinner. Not feeling that. Let's hear the first
one.
one.
And I felt like this before. I'm not a stranger to love.
Yeah, I like 1 and 3, but I think we're going to go for 3 just because it's the same take as the one before it. Okay, next line.
I'm not a stranger to us.
Not bad.
I'm not a stranger to us.
No.
I'm not a stranger to us.
I'm going to go for 3 just because you kind of hear that nice crack at the beginning of her voice, which, again, that's part of the emotional tone I'm looking for. Like, little artifacts like that are not, you know, in every take is what I'm looking for. We have a little woe there. I don't appear to have recorded that for the other take, so just got one choice there.
In this moment, I feel like it's the first time, even if it's just a night.
Okay, let's see here the others. Check's not bad.
In this moment, I feel like
Nope.
it's the first time, even if it's just a night.
All right, we're going to take the first one there.
In this moment, I feel like it's the first time.
Okay, let's hear this line.
I'll be good, cause I know that this is enough.
And what you'll often find is if there's just good vibes on one take, you'll often end up using like large chunks of that. I am going to check our other 2 takes on that line.
I'll be good, cause I know that this is enough.
Oh, I actually prefer that, so we're going to go for that. Let's hear this one.
It's the first. I'll be good, cause I know that this is enough.
No, going to go for the middle one. Okay, just one more line.
I'm not a stranger to love.
Pretty good. Let's hear this one.
I'm not a stranger to love.
I'm feeling that. There's something at the start of that line I liked more.
I'm not a stranger to love.
Oh, no, I I think I like that one. Let's do it two again.
I'm not a stranger to love. I'm not a stranger to love.
Yeah. So there you go. There are the lines. And yeah, obviously I've not done any like joining up of words. It doesn't feel particularly necessary here. Sometimes you're going to want to do that, but I don't think we need to here because it's mostly pretty tight. So there is our comp. So what I next want to do is just print that off into a separate track. And then we can have some fun with it. So I had a little bit of me at the start, which is gone. Let's just what I'm also going to do very quickly is just put some crossfades where these takes sort of fade into each other. So let's stick one there.
Getting low and I felt like this before.
Let's do it so it follows.
I'm not a stranger to love.
Don't really need one there, but fuck it.
I'm not a stranger to us. In this moment, I feel like
there we're kind of going through a word which we don't particularly want, so we're just going to pull back a little bit. Or just going through kind of a breath sound. So where was it? Let me just see. There we go, that's better.
in this moment, I feel like it's the first time, even if it's just a night.
Yep, same there. So again, we can just pull back like that.
I'll be good, cause I know that this is enough. I'm not a stranger to love.
Perfect. So, I'm just going to bounce that section. There we go. There was our first verse. Now, what I'll typically do at this point is create a group channel and chuck the vocal through that. The reasons which will become clear in a moment. Verse, group, and at this point I'll throw the vocals through Melodyne. Don't know if any of you guys used Melodyne before. Yeah, just amazing bit of kit for getting like super granular on vocals. You can obviously use an automatic auto-tune that does the job for you. I'm a much bigger fan of using Melodyne because you have absolute control over every single thing the vocalist does. So let's record. So basically what happens is, essentially, you have to print the vocal from your DAW into Melodyne. After that, that's where it lives, and then we can have a bit of fun with it. So you click transfer, and this is how you do it, basically.
All the lights are getting low, and I felt like this before. I'm not a stranger to love. I'm not a stranger to us. In this moment, I feel like it's the first time, even if it's just a night. I'll be good, cause I know that this is enough. I'm not a stranger to love.
Cool. So now we're in Melodyne. I'm just going to make this a little bit bigger so we can see exactly what is going on. And so Melodyne, each of these little blocks is a note. It will show you the pitch Melodyne thinks it is. And that line is the exact pitch that the vocalist is kind of following. So we're going to go and make sure it's all perfect. But before I do that, I'm going to route the vocal into our group. So, where is my group? I thought I created one. And at this point, I'm just going to throw like a rough effects chain on it. And how I'll put a chain together, like, I always start with like a little bit of compression just off the bat. I like the waves, I usually use the waves R-comp for this, just like a couple of dB of reduction.
All the lights are getting low, and I felt like this before. I'm not a stranger.
After that delay, Cubase delay is pretty solid.
I'm not a stranger to us. In this moment I feel like
You don't need too much at this point because we're going to stick a compressor on after it, and the compressor will make the delay sound way bigger than it is. Same with reverb. My favourite reverb at the moment is Lexicon 480L, but you need a UAD card to run it basically, and I couldn't be fucked to bring my UAD gear here. So I'm going to use this Lexicon, which is also amazing. It's great literally straight out of the box. It used to be a really expensive bit of hardware that I had. Now it's a plug-in. But this, like Concrete Angel, Saving Light, U, they all went through this particular plug-in. So it's called Lex Hall. And yeah, let's have a listen.
all the lights are getting low, and I felt like this before. I'm not a stranger to love. I'm not a
It's sounding pretty good. So put a little bit more delay on that. And what I'm also going to do is, because I kind of think it's going to sound cool on this vocal, for vocals, plug-in called CLA Vocals by a guy called Chris Lord Algie. Super useful. Is it? It's got various things. I like the bite, which gives you a little bit of top end EQ, and it's kind of got like a nice sort of like stereo chorusy effect. So
stranger to us. In this moment I feel like
you get pretty extreme, but I'm just going to run it about there.
I'll be good 'cause I know that this is enough.
And then compressing. The main compressor. I'm a big fan of this Oxford. Again, it's one I kind of use on everything. Oh God, the beach ball. Make sure I keep saving. Do not want to lose this. I like this compressor for vocals very much because you can compress vocals extremely hard without completely breaking them. And I run the compressor after the delay and after the reverb, so you kind of get this cool effect where it meshes it all together, but you'll also kind of hear the reverb popping up between the sort of vocal passages. And this, I'll very fast attack, and we'll just compress the vocal to within an inch of its life. So
all the lights are getting low, and I felt like this before. I'm not a stranger to love. I'm not a stranger to us. In this moment I feel like it's the first time, even if it's just a night. I'll be good 'cause I know that this is enough.
So that's sounding pretty good to me. We obviously need to go back in Melodyne, but I prefer to do that when I know roughly how the chain is going to sound. We will need to do some work on the S's. The more hard you compress a vocal, the more you need to de-ess it. De-essing is just the process of taking the S's and the other hard syllables like D's and T's and just turning them down. If you don't compress hard, you don't really need to do it, but in dance music, we got to compress vocals hard because the tracks compress hard. So you need to make the vocal pop out. So we'll get to that in a minute, but firstly, let's jump into Melodyne and give the vocal some love. So the real tools in Melodyne, you've kind of got this pitch tool, which you can use to change the pitch of each individual note. And because I don't have too much time, I'm literally just going to go and click on these, double click it, and it's going to put it roughly where it thinks it should be. Then the real useful tool is called pitch modulation. So this can allow us to either have a very flat note where the pitch is completely auto-tuned, or more natural, which is how I tend to normally do it. So take these. So that's obviously on the wrong note, so we're going to pop it up to there. And I'm going to tune this pretty hard just because it gives you a better indication of what Melodyne can do.
All the lights are getting low, and I felt like this before.
And you can do a bunch of them all at the same time.
And I felt like this before. I'm not a stranger. Love. I'm not a stranger to love. I'm not a.
Sounds pretty solid. Let's pitch these. Go a bit more natural. We'll probably go a bit more natural here. So there you go. It essentially drags them onto the nearest note.
I'm not a stranger to us.
Double click and you can split a note up because we want this to be 2 notes. Melodyne thought it was 1. And yeah, the algorithm here is like kind of good enough that you can completely change notes if you want to. I mean, it's better kind of to keep them where they were originally sung. But, you know, let me just give you an example. Say you want this to be, let's say, there instead. Or say there. Go there. Fine. Who would even know? But no, we're going to put her where she originally sung it. But it's very, very useful for backing vocals. And as soon as I've done the rest of the verse, we will go and have a dig into that. So I'm going to be as quick as possible rather than just kind of repeating the same shit. So let me I'm just going to grab it all. Have Melodyne show me where it thinks it's going to be. So yeah, with unlimited time, I will painstakingly move everyone. I'll do every single note, right? So like every note, I will decide how much modulation I want that note to have, whether I want it flat, whether I want lots. And usually a tune is even going to be like very heavily auto-tuned or as natural as possible. Like not really middle ground. So let's see how this sounds. I might just make adjustments on the way.
In this moment I feel.
So just noting there, that really should be a separate note. So I'm just going to pull that tight, shove it up to where it needs to be, which is about there. Check that sounds better.
In this moment I feel like it's the first. It's the first time, even if it's just a night.
Oops. That's when Melodyne makes a mistake.
Even if it's just a night, I'll be good 'cause I know.
Where should it be? I can't even tell.
I'll be good 'cause.
Nope. There we go.
I'll be good 'cause.
So sometimes you'll find, as we found here, a note just does not respond well to tuning of any sort. So just go and reset essentially all the pitch changes on that note. See what that's what it was doing originally. And with that, I'm going to leave it exactly as it is. I'm just going to try and find a place where it sounds good. So let's try and move it down a bit.
Even if it's just a night, I'll be good 'cause.
So there should be right.
I'll be good 'cause I know that
Pretty solid.
I know that this is enough. I'm not a stranger to love.
Last line's not right, but we're close enough. So let's have a quick listen with the music.
All the lights are getting low, and I felt like this before. I'm not a stranger to love. I'm not a stranger to us. In this moment I feel like it's the first time, even if it's just a night. I'll be good 'cause I know that this is enough. I'm not a stranger to love.
So I'm not going to do much of it now, but the other cool thing you can do in Melodyne is it works the same way for timing. So if we take off the time grid, and this thing is like pretty tight in terms of timing, but we can shift around these notes, and I'll just fuck it up so you can see how extreme you can be. Like.
All the light getting low, and I felt like.
So you can really do anything you want. So for me, I'll use it for a lot of really small changes, particularly when the vocal is over a drop section, when you've got the beat in, the timing of that vocal becomes really, really fucking important. So for me, I will normally do the timing of a vocal with at least a kick drum underneath it to make sure that like the timing is just fucking perfect. Everything happens at the right point. Still got to sound natural, but you want to make sure it's going to sound good over... the issue with like doing timing in a section like this, we don't have a kick drum. I'm not running a click, so it could sound great, and then you shove a beat underneath it, and it doesn't. So, yeah, the timing is super important. Another little Melodyne hack is backing vocals. So, I'm just going to make this track, call it like BVs. And Melodyne can show me essentially both vocal tracks. So at the moment, let me just have a look. So the grey is my original vocal, and the kind of orange is the one I'm fucking with now, which is the backing vocals. Normally I'd run the backing vocals through their own channel and stuff, but we're just going to send it through the same bus for the sake of speed. And
all the lights are getting low, getting low.
So, say we just want to do one on getting low. Let's delete the rest of this stuff. The line goes, getting low. So maybe we go like up high, like, oh, where was it? Load back up. In fact, no, let's go, give that a try.
Getting low and I felt
Not bad. Try that.
Getting low and I felt like this before. I'm not a stranger to love.
Try these ones. Too low, but
I'm not a stranger to love.
Oh, so go there. Right. And with BVs, you're going to want them like way more tuned, generally. Just tune those pretty fucking tightly. Make sure the pitch is bang on. Okay, should be good.
I'm not a stranger to love.
Pretty nice, right? Might keep that. So yeah, so if you listen, so yeah, you just find the chords, right? You're just going to find like where the chords are going to sit. So. Let's make another one of those, call it BVs, BVs 2, and we can try and throw in a high one as well. So the cool thing is I've just duplicated the BVs. So I can now see where my lead vocal is, which is here, where my first BV is, and I'm going to put a second one on that line. And do a high one instead.
I'm not a stranger.
Yeah, so it's going to be stupidly high, but you're going to get the idea.
I'm not a stranger to love.
Oh yeah, we can go even higher, right? So. Let me just tune these in. And obviously, like, you have, at the moment, all these vocals are the same volume. That is not the way you'd want it, but I'll turn them down now.
When I felt like this before, I'm not a stranger to love.
Cool, so, yeah, just listen, we can listen to it all. Turn down the BVs a little bit.
All the lights are getting low, and I felt like this before, I'm not a stranger to love.
So what it kind of shows you is, like, it used to be so inconvenient to make backing vocals, like having to record like the different takes and stuff. Like using Melodyne this way, you really don't need to. Just move around the notes, find a place where it sounds good. And there you go. Awesome. You can get some awesome backing vocals this way. So that covers BVs. I'm going to be really quick because I know what's the policy on overruns here? We're good, okay. So I'm not going to go on about this vocal too much longer. But so normally what I would do at this point is I would need to attack some of the S's and stuff. If we listen to the vocal on its own, I'm not going to have it like stupidly loud, but you'll kind of hear.
All the lights are getting low, and I felt like this before.
Now, if you were listening really loud or you're listening in headphones, those S's are going to sound really, really horrible. So there's a few ways of fixing them. The easiest way is, at least in Cubase, is just draw them in. So there's an S there. We just literally find it, take down the volume of the S, and go back up. So this is the most straightforward way.
All the lights are getting low.
Let's find a bigger one for a better example.
And I felt like this before. I'm not a stranger.
So that one on Stranger, that's like a pretty big one. So, and you can kind of see these sibilant bits of audio. So you just do it in the waveform, just like that. Let's have a listen.
I felt like this before. I'm not a stranger.
There you go. And I'm compressing it pretty hard, so probably want to go even further. Let's try it down there.
I'm not a stranger.
There you go, much better. So that's kind of the basic way of doing it. I'm also going to very quickly show you a more advanced way, which I think would probably serve most people better. I'm just going to do it with one S because it is super time consuming. So essentially what we do is we make another channel which also goes through our vocal bus. And essentially we have, this is like our DS channel, right? And we're just going to pop that S down there. Make a very quick crossfade. I should have a shortcut for this, but I do not recall what it is. So I'm just going to do it by hand. So, and you do this for every S, every D, basically anything that sounds harsh, throw it onto a separate channel. That is your DS bus. So let me make sure we're going into our verse group. Now, this shouldn't sound any different right now.
I'm not a stranger. I'm not a stranger.
Cool. And then what you do is you just take a bit of the EQ off the top there. Sometimes I will run a DS plugin like Waves DS on the channel, but take off a bit of EQ, take the volume down a little bit, and let's hear how that S sounds.
I'm not a stranger.
Probably want to come down even more. Let's go into there.
I'm not a stranger. I'm not a stranger.
What am I doing? Oh shit, sorry. We're actually not going to get a difference because I'm still running Melodyne. So let me just very quickly print this. So I'm basically going to print this section of the vocal out of Melodyne, and then what I've just tried to do will work. And I think that will pretty much complete what I want to show you guys. So here is our section, which is now printed out of Melodyne. Still going to the verse bus.
Getting low, and I felt like this before. I'm not a stranger.
Perfect. So we can do the same thing again. I'm going to call this DS bus. We're going to grab that pesky S, which is about there, throw it down onto a separate channel, a very quick fade, and then we're going to see what it sounds like. Okay, hopefully it's not going to work.
And I felt like this before. I'm not a stranger.
So there's almost no S there at all. And it's basically now just finding the sweet spot. So like right now, she will literally sound like she's lisping because I've took the S out completely.
And I felt like this before. I'm not a stranger.
So we just find, where's the sweet spot? Let's find it.
I'm not a stranger.
No.
And I felt like this before. I'm not a stranger. I'm not a stranger to love.
So that's about where I'd put it. So that way, your S's, you can pick the exact volume where you want to put them. If some need to be louder than others, you can go and move it up or down. So in total, we had about 2 dB of gain reduction on the DS bus channel, plus a little bit of EQ, taking off the top end. Now, the reason why it's better to do it on a separate channel is the amount of compression I've got on the vocal bus is going to be very key in how much de-essing I need to do. So if I've gone into the clip itself and have de-essed using the volume tool, that's fine as long as I don't change the compression settings. But if I then go and decide to compress a vocal much more harshly, I'll need to go and do every one of those S's again manually by hand, when you put the S's on a separate channel, you don't need to do that. If we're going to compress harder, we just reduce the volume of the channel. If we're going to compress softer, we just allow the channel to be a little bit louder. It just gives you total control of the vocal. So yeah, that covers de-essing, the vocal chain, and when you've kind of done, you've got the vocal sounding perfect in Melodyne, you've done your de-essing, it's on a separate channel. At that point, I'll normally just print the entire thing off, just kind of doing an export, and then have like the finished audio track of the vocal to kind of mix in. So yeah, it's a very, very long process. That's just really taking one line. I didn't even de-ess it properly. It turns out I'm slower than I thought when it comes to vocal production, but that's how I do it for the entire track. And if you want to get vocals sounding fucking mint, that is the way to do it. So yeah, that is it. So